Hello and welcome to the Franchise Tag Betting Show, week 2. I am joined as always by Adam. We're going to be going through our Franchise Tag 5. We're going to go through some little odds in there and then our touchdown scorers as well as always. Adam, we've had a game already. The Bills versus the Dolphins. Obviously, Bills underdogs going into this game managed to come out on top, which I had them winning it comfortably. How did you feel about the game? Obviously, we had Tua going down with another concussion, which is a bit sad. Fingers crossed he's okay. How'd you feel about that one?
Yeah, I was surprised at how well. It's really difficult. I kind of feel like it's difficult to come out and say surprised about how well the Bills did without saying how badly the Dolphins did, sort of thing. So I think it's kind of a bit of both. The first week with the Bills, I felt they were a little bit soft in the secondary, and at the back, the front was good, but at the back they gave up a lot of points against the Cardinals, and just didn't look that great. They looked better this week, and they looked a little bit more like the Bills of previous seasons that we've had. But I mean, yeah, the Dolphins were not good. Tua had a really bad night before the
Well
injury.
before he got injured, yeah.
Yeah, way before the injury, he was really struggling against them. So it really wasn't great. And then obviously the injury as well. Hopefully he's okay, but it doesn't look great considering the history. So I don't quite know what they're going to do, because obviously the Dolphins have got a hell of a lot of money in that offense, and they really need to look at doing something, like progressing. And if he's going to be out, obviously there's lots of speculation as to how long he'll be out for. A lot of people are talking about the fact that they've got a bye week in week 6. So I think they're going to have to bring someone in, because I don't see how they can stick with Skylar Thompson, who, I mean, you could argue he was like deer in the headlights when he came out, and it's tough when you've coming in at that part of the game and you're that far behind. But I don't think we've really seen much from him when he has come out. And there was a lot of chat, wasn't there, in the off season, that him and Mike White, it was kind of like both of them really struggled, and the backup job kind of went to the one who was just slightly better than the other. So, yeah, it's a tough night for Dolphins fans.
Do you think we could see a return for Ryan Tannehill back to Miami?
Well, he does seem the obvious one, doesn't he? Who's available, and we all know that he likes to throw the ball. So it could well work in that respect. And I don't know who else would be around. Maybe you could get someone like a Josh Dobbs in there, possibly. He's someone who's done a job before at different teams. But yeah, I mean, Tannehill's available. It kind of makes sense, I think, because I think also I know that Amazon, when they were doing the post game, they were speculating about what Tua's going to do and stuff like that. And retirement came up again, and you do sort of worry for him that it might just be. I mean, any hit is one hit too many, but that might have been one hit too many now, kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, we'll have to wait and see. But quarterbacks, please learn to slide.
Yeah, don't go head first.
Especially the college ones as well. I've been saying this for years. Can you learn to slide? It's like Jaden Daniels. Please learn to slide.
Well, yeah, surely this will be a good example for him to go,
Yeah.
I'm not slide. All off season I was saying he was one concussion away from retirement. They should draft a quarterback. Yeah. We'll leave that one there, and fingers crossed for him. We'll move into this week's games. We'll bring up the odds for our Franchise Tag 5. So it'd be interesting. Last week we got 3 out of 5. The 2 games that we didn't get right were the Bills game, which we had -6.5, and it was -6, and we had the Dolphins at -3.5, and it was -3. So with narrow margins on them, we were real close to getting all 5. You liked all of them bar the Chargers last week. That was the one you were 50 on. Are you going to be as complimentary this week on my picks? That will be the interesting one.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm not going to be complimentary about the Raiders anymore. I'm going back to how I've always been with them.
Good stance. They're always going to let you down.
Yeah.
So my first game up, I've gone with You can see it right there. It's moved slightly since when I first picked it. There's obviously a lot of people putting some money on the Panthers in this game because I originally picked this game at -6. I thought they could win by a touchdown or more quite easily after seeing the Panthers in week 1, and the Chargers looked very, very good, able to run the ball. Defense looked good for once. You know, two things they've really, really struggled with: running the ball and defense. Harbaugh sorted them out in 1 week. That is good news for the Chargers. So they're now currently -5, Adam. I'm obviously still having them at -5. I had them at -6. So all those things I've said, I think surely the Panthers didn't look like they could create anything on offense. So why would we not take this one?
Yeah, I agree. I think the -5 is definitely where you want to be going on this. I can kind of understand. I think maybe the reluctance for it to be, say, like -6, the over-unders at 38.5, so that they're obviously thinking it's going to be a low-scoring game, this one. That kind of makes sense based on the Panthers not really being able to do much on the offense last week, and also the Chargers, although they did okay on the offense, they are very much a run-first team, and so I think because of that, obviously that will chew up a lot of the clock. So I can kind of get why the over-under is as low as it is. However, I think this could just be a repeat of last week. You know, you could be looking at a 24-10, in which case you're under, but you've got quite a big win for the Chargers here. So that's why I really like the -5. Yeah, with the Panthers, you got to think it can't be as bad as last week. Maybe that's the sort of theory behind it. You kind of feel like they should be able to sort of create some sort of offense. Hopefully that defense can do something a little bit better than what it was. Like I say, with the Chargers, I think it is literally just repeat and carry on. But yeah, the -5, I think it's definitely the right side that you want to be on in this particular matchup. And as you said, the Chargers, they looked okay. They looked all right. They didn't look amazing. I don't think they're ever going to be this sort of like high octane offense because of who you've got there. But they looked solid. They looked good. And I think at -5, it's very doable for them to be able to cover this spread.
Yeah, the Harbaugh blueprint is win in the trenches, manage the clock, get the turnovers.
Yeah.
So I don't think, I saw him at Michigan have loads of games where they should be blowing out opponents. They just managed them and beat them and moved on to the next one and went unbeaten. So I think that's maybe why there's not loads of money on it massively. 2 field goals, that is, though. We saw kickers have an absolute field day in week 1. So 2 field goals is all they need to win by. It's not that touchdown. So yeah, I really like that one as a start. Next up, we have got the Jets at the Titans. I've got them at the same. It's -3.5 for the Jets. I thought week 1, they against the 49ers, I thought they nursed Rodgers into it a little bit. They didn't, they ran the ball a hell of a lot. And when he was asked to throw, I thought his arm looked really sharp and really good. I thought he, delivered the ball very, very well, still looked good on that side of things, and completed a lot of his passes as well. Just didn't have many of them. I think he finished with quite a high completion percentage and quarterback rating in the game. So it's just that mobility. He's now just converted himself into sort of a static pocket passer, but he's got the weapons on the outside. And he's got Breece Hall behind him. Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall. His trusty Alan Lazard helped him out a few times. The Titans, for me, their defense looked okay, but Will Levis, for me, just has got turnovers written all over him. And that Jets defense is hopefully going to be to the hype that we thought it was going to be before the season started. It should be all over him and getting those turnovers for them. They've got some good players in the secondary to get those interceptions, and I can't see the Jets losing this one. I thought as a week 1, they lost. Yeah, it wasn't great, but there was lots to build on, I felt, and they can do that in this game.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think this is a important one not to overreact to week 1 when it comes to what happened. If you just look at the numbers, you would think you should be on the Titans side of things. Defensively, the Titans have come out very well. They, statistically, they looked very good. But the thing you've got to remember is obviously it was the Bears' defense that scored a lot on the Titans, and so their defense really didn't have to do anything up against a rookie quarterback who really struggled. Actually, I was quite surprised how much he did struggle, and I think that probably goes to show that there was a lot of hype around Chicago. Give it a year or two, I think, is probably the message there. So yeah, well, if you look at the stats, the Titans look like they've got a really good defense. The Jets obviously look like their defense was incredibly poor last week, but you've got to remember they were going up against the 49ers away as well. So that was a really tough matchup for your first week. I think I would expect a bounce back from the Jets. It's difficult to really say anything about the Titans defense because we didn't really see much of it. So I think if you look at it from that point of view, you kind of got to stick to your original guns on it, which is very much like the defense is a superior defense to the Titans defense. I think, like you said, they will probably be able to do similar things to what the Bears defense did to Will Levis, in which case might be able to get a touchdown off of him or a couple of picks from him. And although personally the offense of the Jets kind of concerns me a little bit, I wouldn't want to be that highly sort of like backing them because I feel like we saw this in the 49ers. That first drive was just Garrett Wilson. That was all it was. And as soon as the 49ers worked that out, that was the end of Garrett Wilson for the night. And it was literally just Breece Hall dumping it off to Breece Hall. And then Alan Lazard did a little bit as well. And so it kind of, the worry is once you get past Garrett Wilson, are you literally just going to be dumping it off all the time? Is this basically what most of your offense is going to be? So that's the concern with the Jets, whether they're going to be able to put up enough points with a quarterback who looked very static. That's not his game. It's never been his game. He's always rolled out the pocket and been able to move. And he really didn't look like he could do that. Now, that might be because he had a very strong 49ers defense going up against him, or that could be because he can't do that anymore. We're going to have to wait and see over the next couple of weeks. But I think that the Jets offense is not going to put up big numbers. However, I don't think the Titans are either. And so for me, I think the Jets probably will get it because they've got the superior defense. They'll probably slow the Titans down enough and get the win. So 3.5 is a horrible line. Like really horrible number. You'd much rather it was 2.5, obviously.
2.5, yeah.
But I do think that the Jets are the superior team.
Yeah. That half does worry me about this game, but looking at some of the other games, it's one of the lower margins that I'm asking for. And I thought the Jets, despite the fact if they learn to mark Garrett Wilson, I think he's good enough. It's going to take you time to work out his speed and his routes and how clean he is. So hopefully he can get it done in that time. The next game I've gone for is the 49ers at Minnesota Vikings. I got it at 5.5. It's now at 5, so even better. Again, there must be a lot of people banking on Sam Darnold and some of the words from the defense from the Vikings and saying, you know what, actually, Sam Darnold was great, but it was against the Giants, who weren't very good, who people predicted at the start of the year. And the 49ers convincingly put away the Jets. There's nothing really to change on there. Ayuk might play better as well. So there's no reason for me why the 49ers don't win this comfortably. What's your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I like the 49ers in this. I think they win it pretty comfortably, as you said. -5 is fine for me. I think
2 field goals again, isn't it? It doesn't
yeah,
have to be
yeah. I think that the -5 is fine. The 49ers put away, as we were saying, a Jets defense that were predicted to do pretty well. The Vikings defense looked solid against the Giants, but it was against the Giants. So, I do feel like it's about not overreacting to what has happened. I don't think the Vikings are going to be as great as what they looked in week one. I think that 49ers defense will be able to put much more pressure on Sam Darnold than what the Giants were able to do last week. And so I think because of that, you're going to see a quarterback who, although I think he's okay as a starter, he's got, he's always shown potential to be decent, and I think he will be okay for them this season. I don't think he's going to be able to do massive things against the 49ers team. Because of that, I think the 49ers are just a much more superior team all round. And so, yeah, the -5 looks quite nice to me.
When you look at Sam Darnold's year last year, do you think's got the advantage? Do you think he's got the advantage of being with the 49ers and knowing what their defensive plays look like, or do you think they're an advantage because they know Darnold and how he plays? Which one do you think it works for the most?
Probably neither. I think it probably works the same for both. I don't think it really makes much of a difference, to be honest. I mean, yes, he's going to know about how the 49ers play, but to be brutally honest, I think anyone who watches any tape would be able to work that out. So I mean, yeah, okay, there might be a few little intricate plays that you don't see all the time that he might know a little bit more about, but they change the playbook every year. This is the problem. It's like they'll just come up with new plays. So
and Shanahan's labelled as an offensive genius.
Exactly.
So,
yeah. So I don't see much happening there. I suppose if anything, the 49ers probably have a little bit more on him. But again, we've seen what he can do for the last few years. So it's not, I don't think it makes much of a difference. I think everyone can see everything now. So it's not a huge advantage for anyone.
The next one up, if I can scroll down and find it. Now, I was surprised to see that they were the underdogs going into this one. I thought when I first scrolled down and saw them, I thought it'd be the other way round. It's only one +1, -1 either way. But for me, I think I saw enough from the Rams week one against the Lions. Lions heavily tipped to, be in that championship game, to win their conference, to possibly go on and win it all. And they were in a fist fight with them. They took it to overtime. Stafford looked absolutely fantastic. I think McVay's got this. He's such a superior head coach that he manages to bring people in, and everybody on his roster is ready to go. It's one of those teams where someone gets injured, it's next man up. It doesn't matter whether it's an O-line, a defense, or wide receiver. It just seems like they've got a plethora of superstars that he's kept in his back pocket, just waiting to get their chance to come in and play. And yeah, I don't think the loss of Puka is enough to say, yeah, they lose, because they played majority of the game without him against the Lions. And the Cardinals, for me, although they looked a hell of a lot better than I thought they were going to do, they did play well. They've still got areas of concern, and I'm not sure they're quite there yet. Whereas the Rams, I'm quite hot on this year and think they should be. I think they should be the favourites in this one.
Yeah, this is a horrible game to bet on. It really is. The fact that it's -1 and +1, you might as well just call it what it is, and it's a coin flip. There's nothing here to really get too excited about. The concern for me with the Rams isn't so much about losing Puka, it's more about losing the O-lineman that they've lost. And I know that you've got guys that have come in from the practice squad, and you've got guys that, as you say, McVay is really good and gets them ready to go. And that's all well and good. But at the end of the day, when you're actually in the game and you're on the O-line for all of the snaps that the offense is out there for, you have to be a cohesive unit. And the fact is that takes time. And if you're not in there with the guys that's left, then that's a problem. So that is a concern, especially as you've got a quarterback who isn't exactly the most mobile as well. So that's another issue with it when it comes to the O line.
But he hasn't been mobile for the
No,
last
but I'm
three
saying because
seasons.
you've changed the O line
Yeah.
guys, and that's the point of it. So it's like that's where it becomes sort of more concerning, I suppose, rather than anything else. I mean, yeah, he hasn't been mobile for a while. He'll still throw the ball everywhere. The Cardinals, yes, they looked better offensively. Defensively, they didn't look great against the Bills. I mean, we knew this before the season started. The Cardinals are always going to be a team that I look at when it comes to them scoring and them giving up touchdowns. Because so touchdown scorers, we're always going to their game because they're gonna do it all year long. So in that respect, if you think of it that way, the Cardinals have got a decent offense that can score, and the Rams are going to throw the ball a lot and can score, but the O line is not the same as what it was. And the card, you've got all these different things going on, and it almost becomes a little bit like, oh, and you've given me +1, -1. So basically, it could go either way. So I don't really have a particularly strong opinion as to who's going to win it. I just don't want to back it.
I wanted to put the Bills in my fivefold, but because it was the early fixture
Yeah.
of the week, I was like, well, you can't put it in there because by the time we're sat here talking about it,
Yeah.
I'm either a cross or a tick already. And I feel the same way about this game. I thought Jarrah Verse was fantastic. I thought he's fitted in well already. Already got a sack on the board. I thought Byron Young and Kobe Turner picked up from where they left off last year. So you say how good the offense played on for the Cardinals, but they're not got the plethora of injuries on the defense, and John Johnson played well in the secondary. So I just think they're going to be able to get pressure on Kyler, and maybe that be the difference because I've got faith in Stafford.
The only thing I'd say about that is that I felt like the Bills got pressure on Kyler quite well. So, and they still put up 28 points away to the Bills. And this is what I mean. I just kind of feel like they're going to put points up like in every game. And this is why it's incredibly difficult. It's a horrible game. Horrible game. You can keep it.
I think there's a lot of them. I mean, just looking at the teams that are on the screen currently, Patriots looked better than what we thought they were going to do, and their defense looked really, really strong. The Lions, Buccaneers, both of them played well. Buccaneers especially played well in week one. They're 7.5 point underdogs in that one. I was really struggling with some of these. Bengals, Chiefs. Yeah, you should definitely put all your money on the Chiefs. Never bet against the Chiefs, but who's the team that always beats them? Maybe it's just Burrow that does it. I don't know. So it led me to pick this last one here. This is the one I was most worried about of all of them. I was quite comfortable with all the rest, even going money line on the Rams. It's the Steelers at the Broncos. Steelers obviously getting the win last week. Broncos looked like they still had some bits to work out. I mean, there definitely looks like a team there. They look like that, they might compete in some of these. But I think Steelers defense looked absolutely incredible. And the Bo Nix, as much as he's played and as many snaps as he's had and as comfortable as he looks coming into the NFL, takes you a while to adjust to the speed of these guys. And when you've got TJ Watt flying at you, I think it's a hell of a lot of a different game to play than you played at college. So I think that it's going to be more teething issues slightly coming up against that defense. And I think we're going to see more from Justin Fields this week. Now he's had that game. And I think he'll do well with his legs. I think he put threw the ball to Pickens well. I thought he threw the ball better than we've seen him. He's a bit better decision making with it. Though they didn't get any points from that, it was just field goals. I think they get points in this game and they progress a little bit, I think, from last week. What's your thoughts on this one? I know a lot of people like the Broncos.
Yeah, I like the Steelers for this one. I quite like the -2.5 on the Steelers. It's within the field goal. Chris Boswell likes to kick a field goal, as we found out last week. So I think that the Steelers will do okay. There's no offense in this game. This is basically who's going to grind it out the best against the other one, really. And it almost feels like it has like a, I don't know, like a 14-10 kind of feel to it. In which case that's fine because it's -2.5. I don't see either offense really being able to do much. I think Bo Nix is going to struggle against TJ Watt, especially, and just the Steelers defense in general. They are going to have to try and get the run game going against them. I felt like they struggled in the run a little bit and that they need to get that going this week. It's going to be very tough against the Steelers defense that is pretty good against the run. The Broncos struggled. Kenneth Walker for the Seahawks really did well with the run. So I feel like Najee Harris here, I feel like is one that you want to be looking at for the Steelers. And Jalen Warren, if he's back, they got to get that. They've got to get their run going as well. And I feel like they've got a defense that maybe you'd be able to do that against here. And I think that might be just enough in order to get yourself over the line with the -2.5. As you say, you got Justin Fields. He can always use his legs as well, as we know.
He ran for 47, 43 yards like that last week. So,
that's definitely another option that they have. So they've got 3 good running options there, and I think with Arthur Smith as their OC, it's going to be used a lot. So I think that's what you're going to see a lot of in this game. Not a lot of offense, a lot of running if there is any offense, and 2 defenses that the Broncos have always historically had a pretty steady defense. I think they weren't too bad against the Seahawks. They kind of fell away a little bit at the end, but they weren't too bad. Steelers defense obviously phenomenal, and against the Falcons last week, and so I think that'll be enough to get the -2.5. Just don't ask me to watch it.
Yeah, just Freddie might be watching that. Highlights would be good though, I reckon, in that game. Just watching TJ Watt fly at people. If you like a bit of defense. So yet again, Adam, it's only one game that you're really disagreeing with me on. This is rare. We start the season off,
and I genuinely I'm not against the Rams either. That's the thing. So I'm really not against them as potential winners of the game. It's just that it's such a coin flip game that it would just put me off from backing it.
They're my picks. When you looked at them, what stood out to you and which game did I miss? And what one would you have in your accumulator?
Well, obviously, I wanted to go Commanders against Giants just to irritate you. And it was only -1.5 as well. So it's very, very tempting to go there. However, the other one that was tempting, and this hurts me a lot, was the fact that I was tempted to go for the Colts against my own Packers as well. But we're not going there either. The number is not fantastic, but we're gonna go with it. I'm going for the Jags against the Browns. Now, it's -3, which is a bit, rubbish because it's -3. So if it is a field goal win, then you get the push rather than actually winning it. But I do think the Jags, although they lost last week, I think they showed a bit more than what I thought they were going to. Certainly on the offense. I think the fact that Brian Thomas has turned up and straight away looked like a difference maker for them. I think very quickly he's going to be the number 1 guy there. And he looked good. And I think that's a positive thing for them, because the idea of Christian Kirk being the number 1 guy, I don't think that works. And I don't think it has worked very well for him, because I just don't think he's that kind of guy. Like it's not something that's really worked. So having him as more of a sort of like a slot receiver number 2 kind of guy, obviously Evan Ingram as well, who's always around, I think it means that they've got a few more options on the offense. So that was good for them. The Browns looked horrific last week. I know they went up against the Cowboys defense, and everyone's going to come out and go, oh yeah, but the defense looked really, really good. I don't think the Cowboys defense is as good as what a lot of people think it is. I think that it was just very good against a very poor offense. And with everything that is going on with Deshaun Watson at the moment and everything that had gone on last week as well, I just feel like there's going to be more fuel on the fire with this one, where it's not going to get any better. I don't think the Jags are going to be amazing, but I think -3, I think, is doable for them.
Yeah, well, they were only a bit of ball security from ETN and some better decisions from Doug Peterson away from beating the Jags last week. I think if they'd just been a bit more sensible with the ball, they would have come away with the win last week, because they outplayed them easily in the first half of the game. So hopefully Doug can make some better decisions when he's got the ball and where he's got it on the field. But yeah, Browns have had injuries as well now, haven't they? They've lost. You said how bad their offense was. They've lost people on the offense, as well. So it's going to be heavily on Amari Cooper to maybe pull this one through for them. Which, as we said,
they lost quite a lot on the defense as well?
Well, their defense is strong regardless. So if you're just filling in,
but I think they lost like 2 or 3 players on the defense, and that's another. Obviously, I know their defense is strong and stuff like that, but it's still going to have an effect, isn't it? So
I just wasn't quite sure whether I was confident enough in Doug Peterson's decision making to take the -3, but I've gone with the Jags for the win in this game on my picks. So yeah, I do fully agree with you, and they should.
I have to say it was tough, as you were saying earlier.
Yeah.
Some of them, I feel, and I'm going to say this again later on, because when it comes to the touchdown trebles we're doing and the extra sort of like 2-to-1 plus bets, I feel like the bookies have really clamped down on prices. Like, there was a lot of games where I was going through touchdown scores and I was like, these are really short. Like, really short, and I'm like, what's happened, kind of thing. And I feel like even with this, it's happened a little bit where they've kind of almost like they've overcorrected too much. And the idea of like, okay, so the Ravens are playing the Raiders. Yes, we expect the Ravens to win it, but it's -8.5. It feels very high for week 2.
It started at 10.
Yeah. Well, this is what I mean.
Down to 8.5. People are taking the Raiders in this one.
But that's what I mean. It just kind of feels almost like it's incredibly sort of like you've gone from like this to like really shrinking the potential to do much. But yeah, it's some strange ones this week.
Adam, you mentioned there that you struggled with a few touchdown scores. What have you got for us in this section?
Yeah, so I have got some extra ones that we do that are over 2-to-1. So some guys, as I was just saying about the Ravens against the Raiders, predicted to win. I think that one guy for the Ravens who had a good game last week, and I think we'll do okay. Justice Hill at 11-4. I think it feels very much, and I'm pretty sure that Harbaugh came out and said afterwards that this is kind of, Derrick Henry is not here to basically run the ball 25 times in a game. Now, this isn't, this isn't Tennessee.
Show, yeah. It's not his team.
Yeah, exactly. So what this is going to be is basically Henry is going to sort of be the guy. He'll probably have about 13 to 15 touches every game. And then Justice Hill is going to come in on third down plays and be the pass catching back, which is, it makes sense, sort of thing.
He was in for more than that. He was in loads.
Well, yeah, he was in a lot. So 11-4, I think he's a fairly decent price. I quite like the look of him. I think he'll be involved enough where he has the potential to score. For the Titans against the Jets, I know we were saying about how we think the Jets defense will do better, but the one option who, he scored last week against the Bears, and I think that he's going to have, again, he's a very big price this week. Chigga Okonkwo at 9-2. I think that's, a tight end. Sorry?
You've always been a fan.
Yeah. I think he's got a good chance of improving and doing well. And although he is going up against this Jets defense, he's not going to be the number one target. Calvin Ridley probably will be. So you're not going to have Sauce Gardner going up against him or anything like that. So I think that he's got a chance at a big price of coming in. For the Bucks, they have got Chris Godwin at 2-1. I think that you saw it, obviously the main target is going to be Mike Evans every week, but given the prices at 2-1, I think that Chris Godwin showed that he looked what I thought he actually looked fit last week,
Yeah.
and a lot better than what he was for pretty much the whole of last year. So at 2-1, I think that he's, he just gets within our threshold that we've come up with. I know he's going up against the Lions, but the Lions secondary did give up plays.
Yeah, it didn't look fantastic.
No.
Didn't look to those places. But yeah, I think Godwin's a great pick this week.
So at 2-1, I think he's decent. A couple of guys in the Packers Colts game. As I said to you, I've said to you before, I think the Colts really struggled against the run. They against the Texans last week. I think that you will see that Jacobs will be used a lot, but Emmanuel Wilson came in and was used a little bit as well. At 7-2, I think that Wilson is someone that you want to be looking at. I don't think he's going to be involved loads, but I think that he will be involved enough where he gets a few opportunities to maybe have like a 6-7 yard run or something like that in order to be able to get into the end zone. So he's a big price for that. The other guy, I'm going Alec Pierce again. He's got the speed, and I think that you're going to see with Anthony Richardson, it's either going to be run the ball or throw it a very, very long way. And so I think that's one at a price that's not too bad. And then finally, in the Saints game.
Before we move off of that one, are you shocked that you can get Jaden Reed at 2-1? Surprised you didn't mention that one.
So I might not have mentioned Jaden Reed because what I do is any of the ones who are over 2-1 don't get mentioned in the treble. But he's probably 2-1 because Love's not there, is I'm guessing what has happened here. So yeah. And then finally in the Saints game, I have gone for Juwan Johnson, the tight end. Derek Carr loves tight ends. He's always gone down that route. And so I think at 3-1, it's a good price for him. And he scored last week. I know it's against the Panthers, but they, it's a harder defense that they're going up against this year. But I think he'll be okay, and he'll be an option for him. And he always just seems to crop up, doesn't he, Juwan Johnson? Every year, he always seems to come up with about 5 or 6 touchdowns a year. So yeah, I think he'll be all right.
Yeah, I think he'll be all right. Yeah, he's always a good option. He's always a good option in fantasy. He's kind of like no one ever has him. He's usually on the waivers, and he usually sneakily has a good stretch of games. So yeah, it's a decent one to have. On to our trebles, Adam. Shall I go first for my early game?
Go for it.
Yeah. Let's just take this back off of here. I know I had to change some of my odds for my late game because some people got backed in heavily. But my early one, I've gone with Garrett Wilson. Going to see a lot of the ball. I think they're going to throw the ball more. He's 6-4. Sam Laporta at 13-10. I think Lions, you're always going to get Laporta or Amon-Ra St. Brown getting involved in that game. So one of them's got to get in there. And I really like the odds for Laporta more than Amon-Ra St. Brown. And then lastly, Ramondre Stevenson at 13-10 as well. He was mainly all the offense. So I think he's going to see a lot more of the ball again. So I think he's definitely got a chance of getting in the end zone against the Seahawks. All of that, as we said, I struggled a little bit, but I struggled to get the odds up. I thought everyone was very, very short who I liked, and thought, they're not going to be as high, shorter odds as that. And I got it out at 12.22 to 1.
Yeah, well, this is what I was saying. I found it when you were looking at some of the more obvious guys, and this is what I mean when I was saying about I feel like there's been an overcorrection from the markets. I mean, yes, Derrick Henry is likely to score against the Raiders, but he was like 8-13. And it just kind of feels like that's very short for it, and kind of odds that you would expect to be 4 to 5 felt incredibly like, you're not even talking like 8 to 11. You're kind of talking like 3 points off of it, and it just kind of felt very sort of like overreactionary to what had happened last week. Where yes, okay, Derrick Henry got the touchdown last week against the Chiefs, but I wouldn't say he was massively impressive.
No,
It kind of felt like it was. It doesn't feel like it's inevitable that he's gonna score every game, but it just felt like an overreaction. And I felt like there was a lot of them. I mean, there were people like you say, Amon-Ra St. Brown, who basically did next to nothing last week in the first game against the Rams, and he's like odds on. And it was just like, that's crazy sort of thing. It's like, so yeah, there was a few of them. I kind of went a bit. I've gone very sort of like, this is boom or bust in this in the early treble, because there was a lot of that. I kind of steered clear of all the sort of like obvious running backs or big wide receivers. So I've gone Brian Thomas at 5 to 2 for the Jags. As I've said before, I think that I think he can genuinely be their number one guy, and he looks like he's going to be a red zone target. And they looked a little bit better than I thought going up against when they played last week. And I think going up against this Browns team that is struggling a little bit, I think he's a decent one. Jaden Reed at 2 to 1, as you mentioned. I think out of everybody on that Packers team, he's the one who is going to be affected the least by losing Jordan Love, because he can be involved in the run game. He can do jet sweeps and stuff like that. So I think that he will be okay at 2 to 1. And then finally, I'm going to go for Lad McConkey.
Yeah,
Partly because of his name, but mainly because he's 21 to 10, and I think that although they are very run heavy, he is going to be the guy that you saw last week. He was used. There's a reason that they've brought him in, and you can see that they're the sort of guy that's the sort of receiver that Harbaugh wants, and that he's going to be able to get involved going up against a team that struggled defensively. So put them all together, 31.55 to 1. Now, I will agree this is very boom or bust, but I actually think all three of them are pretty solid options and have got decent chances of getting in here. So, yeah, not bad.
Well, I jokingly sent you a rookie wide receiver bet, didn't I? And Brian Thomas, we've already spoke about how good he was. Lad McConkey, you've got in yours, I had him in mine, and then Malik Neighbors, who got involved. Daniel Jones got him the ball quite a bit. That was 27 to 1. So there's some good odds out there in the early fixtures if you want to take a gamble.
Yeah, the one thing I'm going to say, I think we do the draft show with here as well, and we were going on all the way through it about these rookie wide receivers. Now, I know that Marvin Harrison didn't get involved much. I don't think that was Marvin Harrison's fault. He had so much space, so much at a time. The problem is that his little quarterback couldn't get his head up quick enough to actually see him. That was the problem. I think you are going to see with these rookie wide receivers, we were going on about how good they were. I think you're going to see them score quite a lot and get involved quite a lot this season. And they're going to be decent odds at the moment. So they are the ones to get on.
Yeah, we even saw McMillan as well getting involved as well. I think some at the Patriots as well. I think they're all getting involved. We've said this before though, that receivers out of college now slot straight in. It doesn't take them a year and a half, 18 months to gel and win and earn their place over the veterans. They just go, you're good enough now. In you go, week one, I'm throwing you the ball. So I think you're right in jumping on that. We jumped on Rashee Rice last year early doors and got the rewards back from that, didn't we? Quite well.
Yeah.
On the late game, I've gone the opposite. I've gone for a boom or bust. There was only 3 games to pick from, wasn't there? So unless you added the late game and the Monday game, which I didn't. I just picked the 9 o'clock games. So I had to I sent you my bet, and then you went, your odds are wrong, mate. Because you tried to put it on and went, I've got something completely different. So when I had this, what did I have it on? Wednesday, was it? Wednesday evening?
You must have done it. You must have done it during the day on Thursday, I would have thought. Because they normally the prices come out on Thursday.
I did it the day that I sent you the fivefold for the games. So
Yeah,
it was
the
Wednesday.
Thursday.
Was it Thursday?
Yeah, Thursday morning.
I'm not sure it was, Adam.
Okay,
Anyway,
well, I'll let you have Wednesday.
So I went with Colby Parkinson for the Rams. Got involved, looked good, lots of targets. Ball's going to be coming his way. Filled in well for Higbee. He was a big waiver wire target for a lot of people in fantasy as well. So I really, really like him. Not sure what are his odds now.
It's probably changed again
because I got him at 4-1, and he's currently at 9-4 now. So I've also gone for Rashee Rice. I've just mentioned his name. I'll mention it again. He's their wide receiver 1 now. Seems to be trustworthy enough to get those red zone plays from Mahomes. So I think he's real good bet 6-4. And then lastly, I've gone for Justin Fields. We said that the Broncos struggled to defend the run. I think he might be rushing one in this week at 9-4. Now, originally I got this at 35-1. It is now 25-1. I believe, as of last night anyway. So still big odds. The money's still there, and I quite like this bet.
Yeah, I think they're not bad. I think they've all got very good chance of coming on. As you said, we spoke about Fields in the run game. He's going to be part of it. With Puka out, obviously Parkinson, you've got to think will be slightly more involved. At 9-4 is a decent. I mean, even at 9-4, I think is a solid price for him. But yeah, I mean the 4-1's very good. And then Rashee Rice as well, 6-4. They've changed that. I think so. Mine might be slightly different because I have. Oh no, mine's right. So forget that. But yeah, I've also gone for Rashee Rice in mine. He's currently 7-5 at the moment, but 6-4 is not far off. So I've gone for him. In the Lions game, I went slightly different. I went for Demarcus Robinson. The reason I went for Robinson is that I just think he gets, with Puka out, I kind of feel like he's the next man up in that position. And so therefore I think he's going to be on the field a lot. He was 21-10. And then finally in the Steelers Broncos snore fest that we're going to have, I've gone for Najee Harris just because I think that we saw with the Broncos, they struggled against Ken Walker. I think that Najee Harris, although I don't think it's going to be very pretty, I think he will probably bundle himself into the end zone. My only concern with that one is Jaylen Warren, and if he is back, like 100% fit. But I think Najee is going to see most of it, and they're going to want to run all the time. So yeah, I went for them 19.46-1.
Big odds again. So like you, Adam, coming in with the big odds.
I think to a certain degree, we've almost been forced into it because the other guys are so short. This is what I mean. So it's almost like you're looking at the other ones. And the only thing I would say is that we saw a drop-off, didn't we, in week 1? There wasn't many touchdowns compared to what there has been in previous seasons.
Yeah, big drop-off. Lots of field goals.
Yeah. So hopefully that will change. We'll get a few more this week than what we did last week. And but yeah, I think they're all sort of like, all 4 bets have got potential. So we will see. Hopefully we will get a big winner.
The sneaky money might be on having a treble of tight ends, because tight ends were very quiet last week. They did nothing.
Yeah, that's true. Well, they normally all turn up in 1 week, don't they? Together. That's what happens with tight ends.
On their own week. They've got a week named after them, so they might say that. But I can't see them all of them being quiet again. So maybe their odds are slightly inflated. I don't know. We did mention that some people's weren't, but maybe that's where the money is. I might have to look at it later on. But Adam, that's all we've got time for. Best of luck to all your teams. Hopefully we've got some winners in there. I think we had some winners last week, especially on our single touchdown scorers and things like that.
Yeah.
That was good, but hopefully we've got some more of these bigger ones, and we'll be back next week. So keep it with the franchise tag.